Welcome to the Post Shift Podcast, your raw look at the hospitality industry, brought to you by SHC. What is happening, Post Shifters? Welcome back to another episode of the Post Shift Podcast. Luckily enough, this week I have got Kate Gerwin from Happy Accidents in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You almost also may recognize her from Drink Masters on Netflix. I'm really excited about this chat. We have a lot of aligning goals and aligning mantras, I suppose, that really come out in the episode. So if you're enjoying this episode, subscribe, review, do all the things that you need to do. I'm really glad that you're following along, and thank you as always. Bye. Thank you very much for joining me, Kate. This is I'm a bit giddy. Like I still feel even at this stage in my career that meeting up with peers that I look up to and look up to from afar is always sort of fun for me.
Well, thank you. I feel the same about you.
How did give us your elevator pitch, your pitch on how did you start in the industry, in the game?
I was in wine, actually. Wine was my passion and my love. I met my ex-husband in Napa. He was on his externship from culinary school. I was in the wine industry. We ended up moving to we moved to New Mexico, opened what I thought was going to be a fine dining, wine focused restaurant. People in New Mexico wanted cocktails. They weren't really into wine here yet. By default, I created a cocktail menu. We started getting recognition for it. Funny enough, we ended up winning a Sante Award for spirits hospitality, and Charlotte Voicey, the goddess herself, presented me that award. The award was actually awarded in Napa. She said, "Hey, have you ever heard of Tales of the Cocktail? You know, we need more strong females in the industry. You should really get into bartending." And I was like, I'm into wine, no. And she's like, "Well, you should come to Tales of the Cocktail. We do this big party, William Grant." At the time she still worked for Hendrix. She's like, "Come out." I ended up working the William Grant party, going to Tales. And honestly, that was it. I was hooked. I felt like I found my people. Charlotte just announced that she's leaving William Grant and Sons after 18 years. And she's inspired brand ambassadors and taught us all so much, but I wouldn't be here without her. I wouldn't have discovered the incredible world of the spirits industry without her. Yes, there was lots of mentors and lots of people, but she was kind of the one that introduced me to who we are as people. So
what year was that?
2010.
Yeah, that's not that long. I get it's 14 years ago, but 2010, the cocktail landscape in general was sort of, in North America anyway, it was just sort of just burgeoning.
Yeah, it was. And Tales then compared to Tales now is for me such a different place.
Mm-hmm.
In a great way. There's just so much interaction and so much more. Back then, I was walking around big-eyed, looking at Dale DeGroff, and I got to meet David Wondrich, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. But it wasn't just that. For me, it was the way I was received at Tales. People were excited someone from New Mexico was coming, and people were excited that there was another, female doing things. And in the wine world, I always felt that I was a little looked down on. Because of who I am or how I present. I'm as we know, I'm unfiltered and I'm loud, mm-hmm. and I am me, and that wasn't it for the wine world. And bartenders were like, "Oh, cool, come over here. You want to sit at our table?" And I was like, "Okay." I just felt comfortable. I felt welcomed.
So 2010, fast forward, what between then and Happy Accidents opening, what was the trajectory for you then?
So, I started, once I discovered Tales, I started, finding out competitions and seminars and events. I started doing the thing. I went to Camp Runamuck. Mm-hmm. I went to Portland Cocktail Week. I started competing in competitions. The competitions, I was very lucky. I'm slightly competitive. Not as much anymore. But, I started winning competitions, and it was a way to bond with people from all over the world. I went to bowls around the world. Back then, it was only bowls in Diageo. There wasn't really a lot going on. There wasn't every brand having a competition. I got to represent the U.S. in the global finals, and I became the first female to win a global competition, which kind of put me in a different place. Then I did Bar Rescue, and I started consulting in small market bars. I love small markets. Like, people ask me all the time, what are you doing in New Mexico? I know you love small markets. For me, there's just something super special about going into a smaller community and introducing them to something that they don't have. I think the ROI, the give back is so huge. I love what I do. So, my business partner and I, we opened bars in Bismarck, North Dakota, and like Santa Cruz, which in California is a smaller market. And we really gravitated to that. And then eventually it was like, okay, it's time to do this in Albuquerque. And we came here to open a bar in Albuquerque, and then got slapped upside the head with the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do love the small markets, and I
do.
appreciate that. I agree with you. Like, I think it's not a straight line. Like, population on cool bars is not a straight line. It sort of flattens out real quick as soon as you get over that like 2 million person mark.
Yes.
So what's the sort of, with Happy Accidents, you've definitely opened a place that definitely reflects your personality. How has that been taken by Albuquerque? Like, because I'm trying to wrap my head around Albuquerque's cocktail scene and that sort of thing. Is it something that had to be pushed or educated to the general consumer?
When we first opened, I can honestly say most people didn't get it. It was difficult for us. We had a lot of people come in and they're like, well, I want an adios motherfucker. I want a Long Island. And it's not like especially because we're a distillery, we didn't have the things we don't carry Corona, and that's really we just didn't have those things available. We didn't have them behind the bar. We didn't have soda guns, Coke guns. We couldn't make a Long Island. Like, we didn't, at the time we didn't have soda. Now we have a house made soda, but and it wasn't that I didn't want to give people what they want. It was that I wanted people to experience something different, something that they just didn't have. And people were like, oh, they're pretentious. They'll only make theirs, or, oh, they pre-batch things, or they fill their cups with ice, and the whole thing that every TikToker or whatever that doesn't understand cocktail, doesn't understand what we do. So at first it was like, okay, people don't get us. They don't love it. They want what they're used to. But luckily it was just like, it was actually almost just like a quick change. The people that did love us would post about us, and people would come in, and we just kind of be like, but try this. And like, we know you can't get what you get across the street, but why don't you just try this? And then it kind of was like, oh, this is, I went to New York, and I was in a bar that was just like this, and people started to kind of like get it. And now we're really, really blessed. This year we got, another award for best cocktails, and the local ones are really important to us just as much as the other ones. So it was a learning curve. I would like read reviews and I would like cry. I had to go to therapy. I don't read reviews anymore. I just was like, they don't understand me. I care. But now people are, I think they appreciate that we just offer something different. So.
Do you think that's the hardest thing? Like, I get a lot of flack from back in the day when I first took over Clive's in 2009, like not having cranberry juice and stuff like that. I get a lot of flack for that. Still to this day, I still don't have cranberry juice at Clive's.
I don't either.
But do you think in small markets is even more important? I don't want to say an asshole, but like to really stick to your mantra about what you want to do, because I think in a small market, if you try and appeal to everybody, you're just going to get washed away with everybody.
You just get washed away. And I'm not like, I cried. I was like, why? Just try it. And there was times where I was like, do I even bartend? Do I even know what I'm doing? Like, who am I? And like, I just want to make people happy. But no, I 100% like, be authentically you. There's a learning curve for everybody. And also, like, I know this is an unpopular opinion, and like, I truly believe the customer always is right is a dead mantra, but not every place, bar, restaurant, not every place is for everyone. And that is okay.
Yeah.
Like, I do want everyone that comes in my door to feel seen and welcome. But if you don't love it and it's not your place, that is okay. Right? Like, I want people to have their favorite bars, and I want them to go to my bar for certain, vibes or certain occasions or whatever. But if it's not your place, go to your place, enjoy your place, but don't think that we're not here for you. It's just, this is what we do, and we want to stay in our lane. And I don't want to be everything to everyone. Like, I always think it's funny. Like, you don't go into the Chinese food restaurant and be like, well, why can't you make me a pizza? But
Mm-hmm.
I like pizzas, and that's so recognized. But you go into a cocktail bar, or even a dive bar, and you're like, what do you mean you can't make me a 19 ingredient flamed whatever? Like, it's a dive bar.
Yeah.
And when you come into my bar and you're like, what do you mean you can't make me a Long Island? I just don't have Coke, or I don't do a cosmopolitan because I just don't have cranberry juice, but I
Mm-hmm.
have 60 other drinks that are
Yeah.
amazing and wonderful. And I promise you, I have something that is similar to a cosmopolitan that I think you'll enjoy, and I'd love for you to try it. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I got
So
something
I
called
don't
the
know.
high.
I
I got
think
something
you
called
just
the
stick
High
to your
Society
guns.
Murder. I got something called
Yeah.
the High Society Murder, and it's got cranberry liqueur from the Okanagan, which is epic, and that's our Cosmo
Yeah.
Killer,
Like,
and
let's
it's done.
go.
Yeah. So you mentioned awards and how local awards and international awards are all great for the bar and stuff. This is another small market thing that I sort of live by, like, because a lot of awards get like vilified and like demonized,
Oh,
and they're like, oh
I've been
well,
talking about this a lot recently.
it's
So
like
let's go.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I'm
No.
like, yes, but you're in a market of like 2.5 million people. If you only get in like 1% of the market every week, you're golden. For
Yes.
places like us, it's free marketing. It's free marketing. You,
Exactly.
it'll get you in the paper.
I don't have PR. I
Yep.
don't have marketing. We don't have the budget for that. We take those types of budgets, we put it back into our staff. We do health insurance, things like that. That's our priority. And that's fine. I don't knock on bars that have PR companies. Everybody has to do what's right for them. But also, like, there's been a lot of recent discussions, like there's too many awards. I heard recently someone say, or this, or like people are paying to playing. Like, for me personally, bring more awards.
Mhm.
Like, there is nothing wrong with patting each other on the back for the hard work we do. Also, the world isn't freaking pie. A piece of pie for you doesn't mean less pie for this
Mhm.
person over there. Just bake more pie, bring in more awards. Let's pat each other on the back for what we're doing. It's okay if you're getting awards. It's also okay if you're not getting awards. Like, I really think that we need to kind of, like, we get cynical, and that's fine. Like, we all, kind of like, oh, why are they getting awards? Like, just go for it. I think it's great for PR. I think it's great to put your small market on the map. Like, we won a Tails Award, and we just got a Pinnacle Award, and like, Albuquerque didn't know what those things were.
Mhm.
And we're only competing against the previous version of ourselves. We want to do better each year. We want our market to be recognized, and all of those things are stepping stones to get to a place where people take us a little bit more seriously.
Mm. Yeah, I don't. It's always the big market players too. It's always the ones that are just like, oh, we don't really need these, or and I'm just
Yeah,
like, dude, like, you know what it does for, and not for my bar personally, but my entire market, my
exactly.
friends, my peers,
Yes,
everybody, like the whole rising tide raises all ships. I'm like,
100%.
if Victoria gets more notoriety, it's the main thing.
Exactly. And like, I get it. When people travel and they think, okay, we're going to go to the US from another country, they think, okay, we're going to go to New York, right? Or like,
Mhm.
I understand that. And I think it's great. But I just want people to understand that there are other places, and all of it, even, when you're talking about France, you don't just have to go to Paris. And I
Mhm.
think it's important that awards are the things that are shedding lights on those things. And yeah, it's a game. We're all in the hustle. We're all playing the game to an extent that is good for our business. Some
Mhm.
play it harder, some like, you have to do the things that you're doing. But I also think it's time to kind of like put aside the cynicism of like attacking everybody for going after things that are bettering their business, bettering their
Mhm.
community. I want my staff to thrive. I want my community to be recognized. I want, people don't go to a place because there's one cool bar. You know what I mean? Like, you're not
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm just going to go for that one place. They go because there's a community. So
Mhm.
if you're not serving the community and these things aren't helping, well, what's kind of the point? And they do help. Like, they just
Mhm.
do. Like, people look to Albuquerque now, and I'm like, that's awesome. Like, we have a lot of really cool stuff, and my bar isn't the only cool bar in town. I
Mhm.
promise. I go there. They're great places.
So you're just talking about like healthcare and stuff. How have you tried to go against the industry norm? And I'll say an industry norm about your culture and that at Happy Accidents. Like you mentioned health insurance and stuff like that. How are you building that culture at Happy Accidents?
I mean, we hope that people see what we're doing and they just realize that it's possible. People ask all the time, well, how did you do this? We are very lucky. We operate as, we're a distillery, and we operate under a craft distiller's license, and we make our own spirits as well as source bulk spirits. So that allows us to operate in a different profit range, but that profit isn't going into our pockets. Our profits are probably around the same as other bars, which is an unfortunate thing. But our business model, basically, like, we have what we all call our non-negotiables. Rent is a non-negotiable. Your licensing is a non-negotiable. Your power bill, those are all things that we know when we do our business plan that we have to pay for. We just decided to make health insurance a non-negotiable for our full-time employees, because after the pandemic, it was a scary place to be in. We were all, I didn't have health insurance. My business partner and I, Blaze, we were like, this sucks. How do we just figure out how to do things differently? So for us, it was, these are non-negotiables. These are things that we have to pay for in order to operate. And that was kind of it.
Do you think a lot of operators underestimate the actual, I wouldn't say cheapness, but the actual cost? They think that health insurance, I've been doing a lot about like staff retention and training, because we at Clive's, we spend about $800 a year on like proper certification courses. So when they leave, they've actually got on their resume. But $800 for a staff member for a year over 52 weeks to keep them for 52 weeks is not that much.
I absolutely think people underestimate staff retention and how much it costs to train people and how much employee turnover costs a business, without a doubt. And health insurance obviously helps us retain staff. Everything that we do, hopefully, to make our staff feel seen, allows us to keep our staff, and we don't have turnover, really. Like, every bar has turnover. We went through, I think, our second year, a little bit of a turnover, but like, in this year, in 2024, so far, we haven't had a single employee leave. We still have employees from day one, and we've had employees move to Albuquerque, New Mexico from larger markets to work with us.
Wow.
And I 100% know it saves me money. Is health insurance expensive? Yeah, it's ridiculous. The more staff and the more we grow, our health insurance bill is starting to creep up into our rent. But again, it's something that we have built into the cost of our business. And I can guarantee you, if I did a 50% turnover, which is not unheard of in this industry, I would be spending a heck of a lot more money than I do on health insurance. And also, it feels good. It feels good to know you're taking care of your people and they take care of me better. People are always like, Kate, how do you do all this stuff? And I'm like, you do realize that I don't do all this stuff. It's the 20 people behind me that are doing all this stuff, that are behind the bar, that are doing the cocktails. Like, my business partner, my staff, like, all of us as a team are what makes Happy Accidents. I'm just the loud, obnoxious person that's in front of the camera being like, hey, look at me, I have bright hair. But let's be honest, it's not just me. It's a team of really passionate, dedicated humans that are doing all this stuff that make me look awesome. But they're amazing, and they do it because they know we give a shit.
So, talking about being in front of the camera, how was your experience on Drink Masters? Because I know that firstly, I'm going to get my thoughts in order now. Firstly, as an operator and an owner of a bar, then to go off and do something of that magnitude. So it was in Mississauga, wasn't it? Was it filmed in Mississauga, or was it in Toronto?
It was in Hamilton.
Hamilton, that's right. Because
Yeah,
I had a few friends on the thing. And they're like, "Why are you in Hamilton, man? Like, why?" And he's like, "I can't say anything right now. I'm just in Hamilton for the next little while.
Just hanging out in Hamilton. It's a place, and that's where we go. We're just cruising the scene. Yeah, it was filmed in Hamilton. I was there, like 45, 50 days. It was, if you were there, it was a hot minute. I did it. When they first contacted me, because the producer of Drink Masters was a producer on Bar Rescue. So I didn't apply, I had to go through the process, but they reached out to me like, we're doing this show. We'd love for you to be on it. And I'll be honest, my first answer, I was like, oh yeah, I can recommend some people. I was like, I'm not really competing anymore, and I'm opening a bar. But for me personally, I've always wondered why bartenders weren't of the status and respected like chefs were, because we do so much more work like chefs. but we're forward facing and we're constantly interacting with people, and we have to know the history of spirits, and we have to know all about culture, and we have to know about ingredients and flavors and all of these different things and techniques. Like long lost are the days of just throwing a couple bottles together and making a drink. We're doing molecular things, and we're making syrups, and we're making infusions, and like we're doing clarifications. So we have to know a lot. And I kind of was like, man, I really wish people took us more seriously. And, I was also opening a bar in a small market. And that was an opportunity as someone that doesn't have PR and doesn't have marketing. I was like, man, this is huge for us. So, I talked to my business partner, and I was, our bar had just opened. We were open less than 6 months at the time. I was like, can I leave? Can we do this? Are we going to be able to handle this? And it was like, look, let's go. And my goal was to make it to the end of the show. Not to win. I was just like, I just want to make it towards the end, and get as much, FaceTime and talk about our bar and talk about the industry as much as I can. And that's what I went to do.
And how was it, like, overall as an experience? Was it rigorous? Like, was it?
Oh my God.
Like,
it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I was exhausted emotionally and physically by the end. It was grueling. We literally get 90 minutes. And like, when people are like, well, you can't make a drink in 90 minutes. And I'm like, right, you have to concept a drink out and do all of your prep. And like, we're not talking about just combining in 90 minutes. Like we were making syrups, and, we have like dehydrators and all this stuff. And you can't like dehydrate something in 90 minutes. So it's like, how many techniques and how many things can you do? And yeah, people say all the time, they're like, oh, we don't, who makes cocktails like that with all of these things and these plates? And I'm like, right, could you imagine how boring it would be if we all did 12 old fashions?
Yeah.
Like, do you really want to watch a TV show where someone puts up 12 brown drinks with we were showing off to the highest standard that we could. So we were pulling out all the stops. So we're doing everything we could possibly think of under the sun to elevate what we were doing. Is that like everyday bartending? No, but everyday Top Chef isn't everyday restaurants either.
Yeah.
Like that's the end all be all. So yeah, it was mostly mentally. It was absolutely grueling and exhausting. It was just every night I was just like spent. But in all honesty, like I met some of my very best friends, and it was great for the industry. I get recognized, but for me, it was for consumers. What I think a lot of the industry forgets is they're like, well, you didn't do what we do, or you did. And it's like, this is for consumers to see us in the light that we want to be respected. And I wasn't doing this for bartenders to be able to make a milk punch. I was doing this so consumers could look at a milk punch and be like, damn, that's really creative. And, that's a long process. And they're doing this whole big thing so that they would respect what is going on in their respective markets when bartenders are doing these things. So it was for consumers to see us, and the consumers listened. Consumers love the show. I still get messages from people who have just discovered it. I'll be at an airport and someone will be like, oh, you were on that show. So it's like, I'm here for it. I wish we could do more things like that. I want people to see us for the light that we create and what we do.
And it's opened the door for you to have your own little TV show now too, right? You've been filming that as well.
It has. And that I'm actually I'm really freaking proud of. So the show's called Free Spirit. It's on an app called Very Local. Anyone can download it. It's free. It's on Roku and all that stuff. But they asked, like, I had a production company come to me. They're like, you were great on Drink Masters. We want to do a documentary on you. And I was like, yeah, you don't. Appreciate you, but no. But there's a lot of things about my industry that I think people are missing. Small markets, what's going on, how creative we are, how intertwined with the community we are. I pitched the idea to them. They loved it. We've done the first season. We went to we went to Birmingham, Alabama, and Louisville, and Kansas City, and all these smaller markets where we get to show basically like what you are doing in your prospective market, right? Like we get to show people that these things are going on in their hometowns. Also show people that are traveling, like, hey, when you go to Kansas City, there's some great cocktail bars, and Birmingham has an insane community with cocktails and the people in it. I'm hoping it can go global. We are going to do a second season. We really do want to take it international. That's kind of the goal, is to like be able to, come to Canada and be able to go to Mexico and be able to show what I want people to fall in love with the industry the way that we love our industry, because
Mm.
we are in love with each other. Like, we love ourselves, we love each other. Like, we are just like, you're cool, I'm cool, let's be best friends. And I want consumers to see what we see. So I'm kind of hoping that we can get to a point, where people are falling in love with us the way that we deserve.
Yeah, I think that's as you mentioned, I think that's the big difference between chefs and bartenders, or chefs and that the drink side of things is like chefs 10, 15 years ago figured out that if you want to really connect, you got to be consumer centric, because
Yep.
you're always going to have other people in the industry like either dog a cocktail you did or do something like that, but
Yep.
or congratulate you. But like the consumers where the money is, and the consumers where the attention should be,
The
ensuring that we
consumers
can
pay
share.
our bills.
Yes.
Like, we're not paying each other's bills. Honestly, the most of the time when we go to each other's bars, they don't charge
It's
each other.
free.
Like, it's the opposite. Where I'm like, I'm coming in to support you, and I'm like, okay, so like, we don't pay each other's bills. The consumers pay our bills. They're the ones keeping us afloat. They're the ones that need to see what we're doing in all of these processes. And it's funny because, like, it's all full circle. So we talk about when we first opened Happy, and I'm like, no one understood what we're doing. No one knew what a milk punch was. So they come into our bar like, oh, you just poured that out of a bottle. Then you go watch Drink Masters and you see that a milk punch takes hours to create, and all these things and this and that. And now people see a milk punch and they're like, oh wow, this is an elevated cocktail program.
No.
So without Drink Masters and without these things, the consumers, the ones who are actually paying the bills, they don't get to see it. And that's what I hope Free Spirit can do. I hope it grows. I hope we can make it big. I hope people really start to appreciate that, like, we're doing the work, so that our guests have the best experience that they can. And then the consumers are like, oh, I appreciate all that work you did. I'm not upset that you're pouring a batch cocktail for this milk punch, because I recognize that that's really the only way you can do it, because no one's making milk punches on the fly.
So, understandably, since Drink Masters, you've been busy. Obviously, with the TV show, I know that you did something in LA as well, like a big Drinks Masters pop up in
Yeah, we
LA.
did a Netflix pop-up called Netflix Bites, where they took chefs from different Netflix shows and the Drink Masters, and we created like an immersive experience where you could go to this restaurant and have, food from Chef Ming, food from Dominique Crenn, drinks from, Julie, from myself. And really, it was an experience for people to actually taste what they've seen on TV.
Mm. So
And go ahead.
how are you balancing it all? Like, I know you've already talked about your team and Blaze and that sort of thing. Like, how are you balancing? Because I know as a manager and owner in the past, like
Yeah.
I tend to have a little bit of ADHD about like being away from my space for
Yeah.
any long period of time. I'm getting better. I am
Yeah.
getting better. But how are you balancing like doing all this sort of stuff, being an entrepreneur, and then
So
being
when we
on
talk
TV and
about
stuff?
balance, like, I'll be honest, I'm like, this is balanced, right? No, this is definitely balance. I I work-life balance is important. I'm not knocking that. I'm old school. I'm used to the grind. It's
Hmm.
not healthy. I'm not saying it is. I think for me, because I am so blessed that I truly love what I do, and I'm massively, obsessively in love with my friends in the industry, I do get a lot of recharge from getting to go to these events and see my friends and do these things. So, like, it is exhausting. It's like, I'm going to Athens Bar Show and I'm going to Madrid, and you do all these things. You're like, is this thing? But like, I get incredibly recharged when I see my friends getting awards, when
Mm.
I see their hard work getting paid off, when I get to go to an event and give a seminar and people walk up afterwards and they're like, thank you so much, you helped me do this, you helped me do that. That to me is the recharge that I personally need to kind of like refuel my fire and keep me going. Is it balance? No, it is not. I don't have a lot of personal life, but my friends fulfill me in a way that I think helps that. I used to be a lot more of a control freak over the bar, to be honest. I was constantly, I got to go home. You have to run this by me. I want to make sure. This year specifically, I've been able to let go a lot of that. My staff and my business partner, we all have the same goal, and they have the same vision as me. And it's not just my show, it's all of our show. We all want it to succeed. I have to have enough vulnerability and humility to step back and think that I don't have all the answers. So it's really relying on them and trusting 100% that they have the best interest of the bar and the community at heart, and they do. So, there's things that happen, and if it's not my favorite thing, we can talk about it, but it doesn't mean that it was done with ill will or bad intent or it was a bad decision. They're doing everything and they're doing it really well. And I mean, they're probably doing it better than I could. So it's letting people help, I think, is the biggest thing for me, so that I can do the things I want to do, to kind of keep us fresh and relevant and people looking at New Mexico, because it's not something that I think people was really thinking about. It's not balanced. That's
well, I think the big thing is that it's demonized these days in entrepreneur circuits about the hustle and the grind, and you got to do this and this. I think work-life balance is a personal thing, and I've always said this, like, what my work-life balance is different to your work-life balance.
Right.
Like, I do like to work really hard, and I've got a very, very understanding partner who has been with me longer than most people would have probably put up with me. But
I feel that in my soul.
but yeah, I think that's the thing, is like work-life balance. I always get talked about this from bosses, and they're like, "Oh, you need to take more time." I don't want to take time off. Like, I like working this much. This is my happy spot.
This is, and like when I get home, I relax a couple of days, and then I'm like, okay, what can we do? What should I be doing? And it's funny because I'll go into the bar, and I have my spot at the end of the bar, and I'll sit down, and I'll be like, all right, Tammy, what can I do? And she's like, I don't know, relax, have a drink. And I'm like, no, what can I do? And she's like, I don't know, you want some food? And I'm like, wait, what can I do? And she's like, we're good. We got this. And they do. And they call me when they need questions or help or whatever. And we talk to each other for advice, and we have our weekly managers meetings, and, we do the thing, but like, I love what I do. I don't want to do anything else. When people during the pandemic were like, oh, are you going to do something else? Do you have a pivot? And I'm like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I am really excited to go to work. I'm really excited to go to events. I'm excited to go to my friends' bars. I love sitting in my friends' bars and watching what they're doing, and just being in awe and inspired, and feeling like as a community, we've done all these cool things. I'm super proud of people. Like, I'm like, why would I not want to do this? I love teaching. I'm going to Portugal to teach at Flair Camp. I teach at Bar 5. I look at, all these up and coming bartenders, and I'm like, man, like, show me up, make me look like the old lady in the room. I am totally fine with that. Like, I want them to be the legacy that we have all created as the last generation of bartenders. Like, I want the next generation to knock us on our feet and show us how it's done. And that's just kind of the circle of things. That stuff gives me the work-life balance that I need. I'm happy with it. I love it.
So talking about mentorship, you talked about Charlotte earlier, and she's an absolute goddess. Like,
I mean, we are so lucky to have her.
Yeah, I don't think the industry as a whole would have been anywhere near as good as it is without her in the game. Just the forward facing stuff that she does, as well as the background stuff. Like,
and she does it with poise and grace and humility. All these things that, like, I'm always like, I've even told her, I'm like, man, you have that thing I just don't have. Like, you can be the biggest, baddest one in the room, but you're just like, I mean, she is freaking perfection.
So what does mentorship mean for you these days, especially with the position that you've been grown into, and who mentored you along the way to get to this position?
Mentorship to me now has taken on a whole new form. I think I think it gets like convoluted, and people kind of like, especially like I was up for Best Bar Mentor, and like, that's really cool. But like, it's kind of confusing to me because mentorship doesn't happen on social media. Mentorship doesn't happen in public spaces. It shouldn't happen on those places. Like, I see, people who are like, oh, they're doing all this mentorship. And I'm like, I don't know. It's a private thing. It's one-on-one. It's conversations you're having. It's things that, like, can you mentorship someone from across the country? Yes. And can you mentorship someone in your own bar? Yeah. And can you mentorship someone, quietly? Sure. And does it have to be a big thing? Not necessarily. In fact, I don't necessarily think it should be. I don't want to get on social media and be like, so these are the things my mentee, messed up. Like, it's a private conversation. They're private relationships. I think there's mentorship in different levels, whether it's me mentoring someone in my work study program at Bar 5 and I get a week one-on-one with them and then we stay in touch for a year, or it's someone that works with me, and that I get the constant contact with. We also get people that come and stage at Happy, and sometimes we don't post these things. It's not a public grand event, and I think also people need to start looking for mentors outside of just bar mentors. That's actually something that I did, is I looked for entrepreneur mentors. But people in other industries that inspire you can probably provide a lot of mentorship it's not just like, how do I make this cocktail? So I don't know. I think it's a very nuanced thing. I think it's important. For me and my mentors, I had mentors that I absolutely took me under their wing. Sean Kenyon has always mentioned my name in the right places, at the right tables. Obviously, Charlotte Voicey. There's people that I would call when I had problems. I would call David or Dale, or I've Tobin Ellis was one of my huge mentors. I worked with him for years. I learned so much about not just making drinks, but how to control the energy and vibe of a room, and how to read people and understand, nuances that I just didn't grasp the concept of. There's so many people who have affected who I am. There's a lot of people in this industry that we think of as the icons, and we talk about cocktails they made, right? Like, we have our modern day classics, and I love that. We have the penicillins and the paper planes and last words and all of these things, and I think that's great. And people have made, like the Infante, they've made these cocktails that are iconic for us. For me personally, especially because cocktails have evolved so much, I don't really care that my legacy is a cocktail. I want my legacy to be a group of people behind me that do great things in the industry that I was able to influence in some way. That's where I think I would rather have my legacy be, rather than like a recipe that's shared.
I do like the social media mentorship call out, because that's one that is very interesting to me, just because you post a couple of memes and
Yep.
that's the thing. You're not really mentoring person. And I do agree, mentorship is a very personal,
it's a personal thing.
It's a very personal thing, whether you're the mentee or the mentor. Like, it's a very personal thing, and it's not something to get brownie points.
No, again, I don't want to going on social media and preaching about certain things is not mentorship to me, right? Like, calling people out, I agree. Accountability is very important. I think we should have accountability culture, not call out culture. I'm really tired of people doing this whole call out thing without calling in. I don't think that's mentorship. I think that that's actually the opposite. I think that's damaging to other people's mental health at all. Not being able to have open communication and conversations with human one-on-one, and then just going on social media and, calling someone out and then being like, oh, I'm changing the industry. That's mentorship. I don't agree with it. Personally, it's not my thing. I think having one-on-one private conversations and trying to see each other as humans is a much better road to changing things than it is just to get on social media and preach about things that you feel strongly about. Change them physically, not on social media. Reach out, have a conversation with a human being. I don't know.
I think it works perfect. I do agree with you about looking for mentors outside the industry as well. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really looking. I'm hoping I'm going to start reaching out, and like the Savannah Bananas guy, the Savannah Bananas is a baseball team
Oh, okay.
out of Savannah, Georgia,
Yeah.
and he took it over. He maxed out all his credit cards. They were sleeping in the stadium and everything, and they turned into like a multi-million-dollar.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, sort of, it's Harlem Globetrotters meets baseball sort of fun, like dancing pitches and all sort of stuff. But he does like free for all food every baseball game. And so it's just created this massive culture. But it's just that sort of thing that clicks with me. That's like, oh, how did you do that for that business? Because I think we can do it. We can use it in the bar industry.
So I knew nothing about growing my business. I didn't understand how much your city and your state can get behind you. I didn't understand economic resources. I didn't understand grants and loans and any of that stuff. And I was really lucky. We ended up meeting these people who in Albuquerque are really into economic growth. They're real estate developers. They own tons of different businesses. They actually invest in lots of businesses. And, they had talked to me about some grants, and they kind of took me under their wing, and they were like, look, we've grown a lot of businesses. We love Albuquerque. We want Albuquerque to be on the map. And they're not part of my business. They're not invested. They just kind of were like, have you thought about this? Well, let me introduce you to the guy who runs the Economic Development Center in Albuquerque. Let's see if there's any grants available for you guys. And have you contacted the Small Business Bureau? Reach out. And the thing that I've come to realize is there is a lot of money out there. You have to go get it. And most of the people, and I'm going to say this and everyone's going to be like, most of the people that are working in a lot of these positions, they're in these positions because they want to help. They want to do something for the community. If you're not giving them the opportunity to help you, they're going to help someone else. So if you're not putting yourself in front of these people and saying, hey, I have this business, I want to grow it, I want to do this, this, and this, what are your suggestions? You're kind of leaving resources out in the open for anyone else to take. There's lots of things that are available that I didn't realize at all to my business. We were able to apply for a LEDA grant for manufacturing because distillation is manufacturing. We're also a women-owned business, and there's not a lot of women-owned businesses in manufacturing. So that was a benefit for us because we are majority owned by women, that we could apply for grants that I didn't really know were available.
Wow.
And if I wasn't talking to these people and saying, hey, I'd love to do this, I wouldn't have known those things. And I would have just left it out there hanging out. So I don't know. I encourage you to be involved in your community, to talk to your city council. I recently went to a city council meeting, and, I was like, man, I didn't even realize these people are here for us. I should use them to help us. So I think it's an important thing that we don't realize is that mentorship isn't just finding a bartender that you think is popular or you think is, social media savvy, or like, oh, they were on the top 100 list, I want to be like them. Find a business in town or find another industry in town that you respect and go talk to them and ask them questions. And you would be amazed at what doors would be opened.
That's very cool. So you get some advice for a bartender in a small market who's been umming and ahhing about opening their own place. What's the one piece of advice that you would go just to pull the trigger?
Talk to absolutely everyone that about investors or investments. And I don't just mean asking your rich friends to give you money. That's not really it. So things that I think people forget. Merrill Lynch is a huge global company. Every Merrill Lynch in every place has people that they have hired as financial advisors to people. You don't have to be a Merrill Lynch customer. You can actually call up Merrill Lynch and ask for financial advice, and they will transfer you to someone. We've actually had a Merrill Lynch person at a previous place come in and do classes. There are so many investment brokers, people out there to offer advice. Go to your Better Business Bureau, ask them about loans, ask them about an SBA loan. Go to your local banks, go to 10 local banks, go to 10 national banks, ask them about loans. I know it sucks, but if you really want it to happen, you have to do the footwork. But also ask other people. It's amazing how many people know someone that wants to do someone that knows someone that wants to do someone, and this and that. And next thing you know, you've made these connections and someone is there. Or, you talk to someone, they're like, actually, I know someone that has this vacant space. Or I know someone that's about to vacate a space, and maybe you can take over their lease, and that's better for the landlord. And so I think I tell people all the time, and it's not I know there's privilege and there's lots of things in the world. If a door closes, find another door. Just like there's not one piece of pie and you bake more pie, there's lots of doors. So if a door closes, if you go to one bank and they say, I'm sorry, I don't think you have what it takes, and that door closes, you have to go knock on other doors. And I truly think if you just keep knocking on doors, doors tend to open more, and you find a connection and a path to what you want to achieve.
Wow. So what's your plan for the next 6 to 12 months? Do you have a plan for the next 6 to 12 months?
I do have a plan. I have one more big push for travel. I'm going to Europe for 4 weeks for a bunch of events and some pop-ups. And then I come home. We got Miracle. But
Mm.
we have signed a purchase agreement and secured funding for a new distillery. We got a 50,000 square foot building. It's massive and huge and a bit overwhelming, if I admit myself.
Wow.
Yeah, it's massive. We're securing our canning line, so we're going to do a line of ready to drink canned cocktails based on a lot of draft cocktails that we have in the bar. We've been doing this for a long time. We were very, very lucky last year. I've been sitting on a piece of equipment for a little over a year. I was at Bar 5 and met a distiller and was talking to them about vacuum distillation on a commercial scale. And one thing led to another, and we were able to purchase one of very few commercial vacuum stills in the world. So we have a 2,000 liter vacuum still.
Very cool.
2,000. It's huge. It's massive. It's like 19 feet tall. It takes up such a huge footprint. But we are going to move into like full-time distillation, canning. We're going to do co-packing for other people, white labeling spirits. We have a really cool bar that we're going to open in this place with a really cool concept I can't quite talk about yet. We're going to do a lot of collabs with bars from all over the world. We want people to really kind of be engaged. We want bars to be able to kind of take our power back in the industry. So the goal is, once we get we hopefully December 1st, we get to kind of like flip the switches and move in. And then it's going to be buckle down, build a distillery, and let's go.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I'm
2,000
freaking
liter
out. It's fine.
2,000 liter vacuum still. That is cool.
It's really cool, and I'm so
It's
excited.
really, really cool.
It's really, really cool. And I have a consulting distiller too, actually, that have been helping us. And we are super stoked. The idea is not only do we obviously want to make our own spirits, but we really want other bars to be able to collaborate with us and produce spirits and things that they've been playing around with in their kitchens. Like we all mess around. Like we all have these little things that we think are our signatures. But we can't go to market with them. And our goal is to open up an avenue for bars to be able to kind of collaborate and create their own spirits within the realms so that we can start supporting each other in different ways.
That's very, very cool. So we've come to the stage of the podcast where I give you 5 very deep questions.
Oh, good.
Every guest, like last week was Dave Mitten, and Mitty was like, "Why didn't you send these through to me earlier?" Because I was like, "Nope, we're going to do it."
Oh,
So
I'm ready. It's fine.
what is the one lesson or experience that has shaped your perspective the most, and how do you carry it forward with you in your life?
The most, I don't know. Maybe my divorce. I learned a lot from that. Vulnerability, accountability. But right before Happy Accidents is called Happy Accidents because we actually had a different location. We had a different name. I did bring in a partner. My business partner and I brought someone else in because they loved the concept. It was the owner of the building. They wanted to be a part of it. It was called, Blue Hippo. We were so excited, and the partner and myself and Blaze didn't see eye to eye. Shortly after we built out this place, did all this work, we ended up separating. And I was devastated, and I thought I'd never have my own bar, and I cried, and I lost my location, and they had to buy us out of our own concept. I lost the name to my own business, all the work. I was just devastated. And I was like, okay, well, I'm done. I'm just going to go back to being a bartender and working for someone else. And the reason why we call happy accidents is because Bob Ross would always say, you don't make mistakes, you just have happy accidents. Don't give up on your dreams ever. That was the biggest thing for me. I thought it was over. And now I have what I believe is 10 times better than what we ever would have created in this other space. We've won awards. We've been able to stay true to who we are. It's bartender owned. So just when you think you get knocked down, just keep going.
If you could leave with one lasting message or piece of wisdom for the world, what would it be and why?
Be authentically yourself. It's a hard thing. Have the courage to be disliked. That's a book. You should go read it. It's amazing. If you have goodwill and good intentions, be who you are. It is okay. I've tried so hard to conform to other humans or other stereotypes or other standards. And what I've found is when I'm authentically me, I'm at my best and I'm more available for other people.
Looking back on your journey, what is something you wish you understood earlier in life?
You don't know what you don't know. It's a saying that Tobin used to say to me all the time that I thought was the dumbest thing ever. Well, you don't know what you don't know. What does that even mean? Like, you don't know what you don't know. And he'd say it all the time. Oh my God, Tobin. Love it. But, honestly, that you get to a point in your 20s when you're an adult and you're like, I know everything. I know this, I know that. And then your 30-year-old self looks back at your 20-year-old self and you're like, I would beat the shit out of that kid. And then your 40-year-old self looks back at your 30-year-old self and you're like, oh my God, if I only would have known. You don't actually know the things that are out there that you have no idea about. So when you think that you've like got it all nailed, you don't.
So fucking true. So fucking true. I've actually been tossing around a post in my head of like, I posted a picture on social media of me falling asleep at my first family and friends when I opened up Little Jumbo. And I remember that night specifically because it was so exhausting. We opened that place in 6 weeks. And I'm like, man, I was a dumbass then.
Yeah,
and then
right.
I looked up a post of opening up. I opened up 3 venues in Singapore in 2019. I'm like, that was 5 years ago. I'm like, I was still a fucking dumbass then. Like, and then now I look then and it's like, oh, when I'm 50, I'm definitely looking back at this and going, you're a dumbass.
100%.
Like,
I feel like now I'm only mature enough to know I'm still an idiot. Right? I'm like, that's it. I'm like, I finally got to the point to be like, yeah, you don't know shit, girl. At least I got there. Like, that's my maturity level now. And I know I just turned 46 2 weeks ago. I know 50-year-old Kate's going to look back at 46-year-old Kate and be like, at least you knew you were. You had that going for you.
How do you define success and how's your definition of it changed over time?
I define success by the people around me and the way they look at me and the way they treat me. I used to think success was the competitions and the awards and the accolades. And I realized that that's actually not it at all. My success is when my daughter looks at me and compliments me or tells me how much she looks up to me for the things I've done. Or when I see Tammy win Speed Rack National, or when my staff comes to me and says, we really are sick of you being gone so much. We love you and we miss you being in this bar. It's not the same without you. That is my success.
Wow. What do you hope your legacy will be and what steps are you taking to build it?
I want my legacy to be the people behind me being better than I am and changing the industry in ways that I never thought possible. So I have pushed for health insurance and, equity in the business. And I hope that the people that work for me in turn open their bars. And that's not even a question anymore. And then they're tackling other things that are more important at that point in time. I hope that the legacy that I leave behind is never an award or even a cocktail bar. I think it's the people who then create bigger change than I did.
Wow, that was amazing. I want to say thank you so much. I really do.
Thank you.
I we've always been Facebook, like social media.
And honestly, like we haven't been able to spend enough time together face to face.
Yeah,
I think Toronto. That.
Yeah.
2025.
Yes, 2025. I got to make it to Albuquerque.
You do.
So,
but thank you.
That would be awesome.
Start thinking about your spirit, man. Let's do that.
That would be fantastic. But thank you so much, Kate. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you very soon.
For sure.
Thanks a lot. Bye. Thanks for listening, Pose Shifters. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really enjoy sitting down with friends and peers and just chatting about the industry and getting down to the nuts and bolts of what's really going on out there. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, everything on all the platforms. Just hit it up and I'll do my best to answer any queries or questions you have. I'll see you next week, guys. Bye.